What if your job wasn't just a 9 to 5, but a nonstop, high stakes mission where one wrong move could mean disaster? Well, I've got an author I'd like you to meet whose book will put you in the cockpit with a fighter pilot haunted by loss, in the war room where impossible decisions are made, and on the front lines of a world teetering on the edge of conflict. Stick around because you're going to want to learn more about the books and the writing journey this author took to create it. Buckle up. You're in for a good ride.
Welcome to A Book Finds You podcast. This week's guest is Doug Norton. Join us as he shares the inspiration behind his book, along with his writing process, routines, and challenges. And now, here's your host, best-selling author, Rob Chalice.
Today's guest, Doug Norton, is the epitome of the theme of this show. Books just seem to find him. His first book found him in a class called How to Write Fiction Like a Pro. His third book found him on a cross-country flight. He jotted his thoughts down on a cabin service napkin and still has it. The fourth book, code word Precipice, found him as he read an article predicting a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. I'm ready to hear about some more. Happy to have you with us and welcome to the show, Doug.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here. This is my first podcast, so I'm really looking forward to this.
Ah, well, you know what? You landed on a good one. You'll see. You'll see.
All right. All right.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I'm glad I'm introducing you to podcasting because it really gives us an opportunity to kind of climb into the process of your writing. So normally I start with how a book finds you, but that one I got. So my question out of the gate for you is, what made you listen?
Well, I sort of couldn't help it. The voice was in my head and it didn't shut down. I've always loved to read and I've done some writing, and I just began to feel the question of, well, can you write something? Can you write a novel? And that led me to this course, which has led me all the rest of the way through these 4 books, sequentially discovering more, meeting more writers, learning more, taking workshops. But the beginning was this course.
Outstanding. And where was this, the Writer Center, or where were you?
No, this is a course, and it's still given, by the way. It's given by a company called Ed2Go, and the 2 in Ed2Go is the numeral 2. It's written by a guy named Steve Alcorn, who, interestingly enough, in his other life, constructs rides for amusement parks. And this course walks you through the development of a novel. It teaches you the structure, and then it says, okay, now you're going to outline your first novel, or you're going to outline your next novel.
Good. Well, I'm going to carve into that in a minute because that's interesting to me, only because, I'm a sales trainer by trade and I teach people to sell. And yet everybody has their own style. Now, there are techniques and tactics, like asking an open question. I wouldn't want a salesperson to say, that's not my style, okay? Because that's a tactic that we all use. But how you use that probe, for instance, becomes the way you stylize it. So we're going to get into the stylizing of that process that you followed. Let me ask you this. Have you ever abandoned an idea? So I've heard 4 books that seem to have found you. Are they the only 4? Did you ever get poked in the head and went, no, not that one?
Sure. I have to tell you a little bit about the way that I write to answer this question. You had a guest named Flo McCann on your show, yep. And she said that she writes chapters. She creates chapters. I create scenes. And if I get an idea for a book, I'll think about what are the 2 or 3 scenes that I think will be the most crucial and the most satisfying for a reader, that'll make the reader go, yes. And then I try to write those scenes. And if I can't write those scenes, that idea is not for me because I know I'm not going to be able to carry it off.
Well, it's an important topic, Doug, and I'll tell you why. There are many people who want to write a book and they keep abandoning their projects. And on the flip side, I know of many people, I'd be one of them for sure, who sometimes just won't let an idea go. And it's not coming to fruition, And the competitor and stubborn person in me says, I'm not quitting on this idea. And yet sometimes we have to, I can barely use the word quit. I hate the word quit, but we have to abandon an idea. And that's one of those tough ones because I got you coming and going with this question. We don't want to quit. And yet sometimes So I'm always looking from a writer, and congratulations, you were an author of the first book you wrote. Once you got two in there, you became a writer. I don't know if you know that, but in my book you
Okay.
did.
All right.
But
Okay.
as a fellow writer, that's a really big struggle of where's the line? Am I is it beating me up or is it just not there?
Well, I would just throw in, I didn't start out to write novels. I started out just trying to see if I could capture a scene or describe a character that I had met. And it just gradually built into the idea of, well, maybe there's a novel in me. And I would say that to people who think that they want to become writers. There are a lot of writers out there who haven't been born yet. And you don't have to start by writing a book, just start by writing some things.
Yeah. It's one of the you ever keep a journal, for example?
I haven't. My wife actually teaches journaling, so you'd think that I would, but I just haven't. In a sense, my novels are my journal, I guess.
Yeah. How about blogs?
Nope, never done that. I'm not much of a computer person or a social media person, so that that I guess is why I haven't.
Yeah. Well, I may over a cup of coffee give you a little nudge to blogging, just because I think you'll find that it's like you're almost a boxer at this point,
Oh,
and you get in the ring and you write books. But what blogs do sometimes, regardless of how many people actually read them, we can get into that question if you'd like, but uh, they just keep you fit and trim in the ring. They give you
yeah,
almost a sparring partner, just an ability to get up and train so that we keep those words flowing. We keep them going. Have you ever noticed that when you're on a writing roll, words come easy, and when you leave it and put it down for a while, it takes a while to kind of get the engine moving again.
that's
So
absolutely right.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
So a little sneaky thing that I've done sometimes is when I'm working on an outline and I'm working on a difficult part of the book, I made blog pieces of it, just 500, 600 words of a really tough part of it and make it a message. But what people don't know is that's actually a part of a chapter I'm working on. It's just a devil of a couple of pages.
Yep,
So
yep.
I'm going to try it this way and it helps. So just a thought.
And see if you get some help from the blog comments, in other words.
You know, yes and no. The blog comments, people will just tend to say, "Okay, that's really interesting." So I'll give you an example, Doug. I wrote a piece one time because I was trying to get speakers to stop worrying about being so perfect, and so that was a part of a chapter I was writing. But I wrote a piece called "The Pursuit of Imperfection." And I put about 600 words together about just how we lose our authenticity sometimes when we're trying to be too perfect. But because I could micromanage those 600 words, I not only had a wonderful little piece that people enjoyed reading, but I knew it had a home in a bigger chapter in the book. So it's remember what he said about style,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
style move, but that might interest you in blogging a little bit more when you realize that you can use it in some of what you're working on and maybe ask people, what do you think of this character or what do you think of this piece? So
Sure, sure.
we'll talk about, like I said, we'll talk about that when the mic isn't on. We'll keep
Okay.
talking about you and your book here. Do you begin? It sounds like you got a character. Do you have a plot or theme in mind when you start going?
Actually, I don't. I mean, I know many people say you need to have the theme before you write the book. In my case, again, I see these four books as an organic whole. That's kind of the way they have emerged, heel and toe from me. I usually find the theme after I have written a good deal of the book. I start out by writing book chapter or book scenes
Mhm.
and sort of I liken it to I've never made a quilt, but I think I know a little bit about the process and I see the scenes as like quilt squares.
Right.
You make your quilt squares, stack them up, then you stitch them on to the larger backing in a pattern. And then maybe you move the quilt squares around later if you want to change the design. And at some point, I've got something pretty close to a first draft. But first I go through this valley of death, which is good characters in search of a plot.
Right. And I think we're making the point when we were talking earlier a little bit about style and things like that. What we're hearing now is I doubt that the pro class you went to said, do it this way. What you've done is you stylized what you learned in your class. Am I putting words in your mouth? Would you say that's about right?
No, I'd say that's about right because I wrote, you know, the class taught me to write a fiction book from an outline, and many great authors do, and many great authors don't. So I wrote the first one from an outline. The second one, I said, okay, I'm going to let the characters lead me. And they did. But you know what? I still had to write an outline after I'd written the first draft so I could find out where I'd been and where I still needed to go. So I think an outline is inescapable, but whether it comes at the outset or somewhere in the process kind of depends on how I feel.
You are truly a contrarian there, Doug. You're the first guy I ever met who writes it first and then outlines. This is a first for the show, everybody. Okay, let's.
Well, I mean, how do you, particularly if you're writing suspense or mystery or something like that, how do you know the pieces are going to fit together? My brain won't hold it all. I have to get it down on paper and look at it.
Yeah, I got you. I typically write business books. So it's easier for me because I know I'm on certain processes and measurements and things like that. So I know kind of a beginning, middle, and end. But boy, I do about 98% of the people I talk to on this show are fiction writers. And they're a lot like you in terms of even if they outline, their character ends up taking them into a different direction or
Oh
something
yeah.
else
Oh yeah.
happens. Or they write themselves into a corner sometimes, as they tell me, and then they got to figure out how to get out of it.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I'm fascinated with your writing routine. I can't let it go. Let's stay here for a little bit longer. What about are you a daily writer or do you kind of a words per week kind of writer? When you're engaged and really writing that book, what does a typical week look like for you?
Well, it really depends on where I am in the process. I'm I write because writing enriches my life. I'm not writing because I need to produce a book at a certain time or a certain number of books. So I tend to go in fits and starts. And when I'm, hot on the trail of a plot thread, let's say, I'll write, every day for 3 or 4 hours in the morning.
Mhm.
And then if I hit a snag, quote unquote writer's block, I just walk away and leave it for a while because I know my subconscious is working on it. And if I don't push it, if I go just do something else, let it lie for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks, my subconscious will have figured something out, either an answer or nope, Doug, this is a bad idea. Just back away from it, go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. And the scary thing for me, Doug, because I can identify with that is sometimes when I leave it be, am I, maybe the tough it was getting going and it was getting tough. And again, it's that line of, should I tough it out? Because I'm sure the man who's written 4 books, you've been in that mud, but you stayed in the mud and you got out of it. Okay. And then
Yep.
there are other times where you left to come back. And there's always that little haunting voice of, should I have stayed and fought a little bit harder?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But for me, I found that walking away for a little while seems to work better than just digging my heels in and trying to tough it out, as you said.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you this is one of my techniques. I'm not a big solitaire player and I don't like playing games on my computer, but when I'm in the mud, as opposed to walking away for a few days, I'll walk away to a solitaire game on the
Ah,
computer just because it just wipes out everything I'm thinking about. And I'm just thinking about putting a 3 on top of a 2 or whatever, and then jump back in. Uh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but there
yeah.
we go. We all have our own way.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right.
All right. So, I'd asked you this before, but I'm trying to remember your answer. Did you ever abandon one? I mean, I know you've been in the mud, you've walked away for a day or two. Did you ever get a few chapters in and say, this just isn't it?
No, I've never had that happen. I've abandoned a plot thread,
Hmm.
but I've never abandoned a whole book and walked away from it. Who knows? Maybe I should have, but I haven't.
I'm glad. I am I'm a stickler and a believer, and I teach programs every now and then at the Writer Center on writing, that there's usually a reason why that thought is in there. It's sort of like working on an art, a drawing, a painting. And okay, I get it. The painting just isn't coming along, but I can't trash the painting. I just have to change the painting. But the bones of it typically are there for a reason. But that's also a stubborn guy who was raised by a Marine. So, so we didn't do a whole lot of quitting in the Jollis house. So we reimagined, we evolved, but the word quitting, no.
No,
So, but
all
everybody
right.
has their own way. I love trying to figure it out and figure it out. And sometimes those are the richest parts of our novel that no one will ever know about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
All right, let's talk about your path to the part people don't like talking about. A little bit on the publishing and marketing side of this thing. How did you go through your publishing part of all this?
Okay, well, so I started out with the first book. Uh, I thought I wanted to try to get traditionally published,
Hmm.
and so I sent out a ton of letters. Of course, got no answers, except I got a few, and I got two back from agents with reasonable track records, and they weren't just new folks trying to find their first author. And they both said the same thing, and what they said launched me on the path that I followed. Each of them said, in effect, "Hey, I like your novel. It's well written. It's interesting, but I could never sell it." And the reasons that they gave, two reasons. One reason was nobody ever heard of you, but of course that's completely overcomable. Nobody ever heard of just about anybody for their first book. But they said the second thing is your books tend to be tied so closely to the real world and so closely to current events that in the 18 months it would take between the time we signed a contract and your book hit the street, something could very easily happen that would make your plot look silly or outdated. And no publisher is going to take two chances like that. And shortly after that happened, I was working on my second book at that time. The SEALs got Osama bin Laden. And so I had to write him out of the book. Now, I was happy to do that, but that really made the point. So I thought, okay, well, I will just do independent publishing because then I can get them out quickly once I've decided the book is ready. And that's the route that I've stuck to.
Perfect. Okay, so let's dissect that a little bit. First of all, the word that most of these publishers are looking for is platform,
Oh,
and how does a first time writer magically create a platform? But for those who are listening who want to go conventional, and there's pros and cons to both sides, or to all three sides, hybrid, conventional, self publishing. But if you're going to approach a conventional publisher, already, and now I've got my sales hat on. I hope you don't mind.
sure. Go
Remember,
ahead.
I'm a
Go
sales
for it.
trainer at heart. Then that is the elephant in the room. That's the biggest objection. Sometimes we think it's they don't like my writing. Your writing is usually fine, but you be the publisher. They have to. It costs them money to publish a book. I know the numbers shift around, but some say anywhere between $18,000 to $20,000 for a
Sure.
conventional publisher. So what they're looking to hear, other than what a wonderfully written book is, how are you going to help us to sell it? And before everybody throws up their hands and say, well, I'll never be able to answer that question, you can. You just have to be willing to want to create the blog that we just talked about and
Right.
build the website and maybe speak on behalf of the book and start on Substack. And if you're not up for all that nonsense, then you walk away from it. But it is doable. You just have to be willing to want to start that part of the engine, and it isn't easy. So, but that's what they're looking for. And sometimes people's feelings are hurt. Don't be. It's just it's business, and so many publishers are folding right now that I'm pulling for the publishers, and if that's what they need, then that's who they should sign. There's lots of avenues for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
the other piece, just so you know, and I can commiserate with that, which is outdated. Just so you know, in book number 5, you can get just don't mention Osama bin Laden, a major leader of
Right.
sorts, from
Right.
another country. Let people. I have one book that was my first book I ever wrote, and it was on seminars and workshops. The thing's been in 4 editions. The reason why they keep updating is because I got technical on the AV side. I didn't need to.
Okay.
But in book number 1, I was telling people where to stand next to an overhead projector. Whoops. Okay. That's your Osama bin Laden. Okay?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but I learned in my others that I'm a little bit more vague about you're going to want to be visual. You're going to want to be this. There are many avenues around so that I could get it a little more evergreen. But that's again, if we want to go that conventional route. All right. Good, 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 good. How about the marketing of your books? Okay, seeing as we don't have a conventional publisher pushing, and don't feel bad about that, Doug, because as a guy with 6 conventional publishers, none of them do all that much pushing. So it's sort of the dirty little secret of conventional publishing. They're not really a marketing machine. They lead you to believe that they are, but they're not. So we got to do it on our own, whether we're conventional or self published. What, any things that you do that are unique or different that to try and get that word out?
Well, they certainly aren't unique or different, but they're the things that I want to do that give me pleasure. I am just not a, a blogger or a social media person and so on. I do a little bit of that, but that's not the way I try to get the word out. I really enjoy interacting with readers about the books or just about writing in general. So what I try to do is get in front of book clubs, in front of various affinity groups that are looking for speakers, libraries that are looking for speakers. I like to go out and look people in the eye and talk to them about the book and talk to them about writing and how writing can enrich their lives if they want to give it a try. That's really what I do. And the thing that I get the most pleasure out of is reviews. When people post a review and I realize, okay, this person got what I was trying to say, that really makes me feel good. So my goal is really to meet readers and to generate reviews. And some sales will happen as a result of that, but that's not what I'm trying to drive.
Right. So a couple thoughts maybe.
Yeah,
First of all, do we have a website for the book?
we do. Yes,
Yeah.
we have. Right.
Sneak that. Let me hear that website name.
It's www.authordougnorton.com.
Okay. And it's Dough or just Doug?
Just Dougnorton.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we got the website, which means it would be easy to put a blog on there, but I'm not going to stop pushing on that. How about a fan page, a Facebook fan page? You ever thought of that?
I've thought about it, and I might give it a try this time. Again, I'm pretty incompetent when it comes to Facebook, and I'm asking myself, do I want to invest the time in learning how to set that up? But I can also find somebody who will set that up for me. I mean, I've got grandkids in their mid to late 20s, and I'm sure they could do it.
You're daggone right they can. And if you didn't have grandkids, I can tell you that the going rate on a Facebook fan page is usually about $150. You can
Okay.
go to Upwork or something like that. And I would encourage you because, Doug, what you're describing, and I get it, I'm really getting you now. But for a lot of, you're similar to a lot of authors. We don't need to blog these other things, but it would be nice to interact with people who are reading the book. A fan page or a website that allows for some interaction can do that. And last thing, and I'll stop teaching, but even on the website, let's say we don't want to do the fan page, we still want to interact. Try and maintain a database of people that will actually follow you. And
Right.
sometimes, again, in the sales world, we have something called a WIFM, WIFM. It stands for What's in it for me. So sometimes what you can do maybe is if you're working on that fifth book and you've got one chapter done, you can just put on the website or the fan page, join, and I'll send you a early look at the first chapter or the preface or just a piece of the outline. So you're letting people behind the curtain. And now we don't need 1,000, 10,000 people. Even if it's 25, 50 people, you're building a little community of Doug Nortons.
Yeah.
So just a thought for you, but and I'll stop. I promise I'll make you a deal. I won't mention the word blog again if you at least give them some way to connect with you on that website. Deal?
All right. That's a deal.
Okay. All right, you heard it. Okay, coming down the home stretch here. What would you if we've got a bunch of newer authors that are listening, a lot of people I think that have dreamt of being an author. If you had one piece of advice that you'd give an aspiring author or writer, what would it be?
It would be to write. You don't have to have a big project in mind to start writing and start learning the craft and start receiving enjoyment from it. Just start writing. You don't even have to have a plot or a theme. I mean, I started writing just to see if I could find the words to capture a walk in the woods or a conversation that I heard standing in the grocery line that suggested some interesting things. Or maybe I could take that conversation and tweak it a bit and hint at some things. If you just start writing, it's like learning to ride a bicycle. You have to get on there and ride.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kicking myself because from now on I'm going to have it up in my office here. But I actually send out to people who are thinking of writing sometimes this little piece that I have, which I won't do it. I can't do it perfectly, but it's almost like a little poem, and it says, "Thinking about writing is not writing. Planning to write is not writing. Researching to write is not writing. Writing is writing." And that's why if I were to, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask me that question too. And I think one of the things I tell people also is stop being so hard on yourself.
Yes.
Just let it go. Just, I think, how many people you're going to meet them, Doug, now, you probably already have now that you're in this arena, who they'll tell you, wow, you've written books. That's terrific. I've always dreamt of writing a book. I started one once 9 years ago, and they're still kind of rehashing chapter one and tearing it apart and putting it together, tearing it apart. Just let it go. Leave it alone. Just keep writing. And you never know where that journey will take you.
Well, that's right. And one of the things that I like to do when I meet with folks is I have a presentation called Why You, Yes, You Should Start Writing. And I try to show people the ways that writing can enrich your life, not necessarily monetarily, but in terms of your emotional well-being and keeping your brain going. I mean, I'm 82 years old, or just about to be 82 years old, and I think writing books is something that helps me keep my brain chugging along.
Yeah. It's helping with your hair too. This man has a massive head of hair, and I don't have anything. I got nothing. So I'm going to come to your next class. I want to,
Okay.
want to hear how this is done. The book is called Code Word Precipice. That's the one that we're talking about here. I don't say this enough, but I'm going to say it now. Please, everybody, you can be a writer. You can be thinking about writing, a fellow author. We need to get on there and support each other. And that means not only looking at for a book like Code Word Precipice, but please, please, whenever you buy a book, put a little bit of a review on there. It doesn't need to be 9 pages long. 2 sentences are fine. I'm looking at Doug. Last I noticed, he doesn't walk on water. He's just a really good writer who writes great books. So you've got your review done already. So, but let's do some more reviews on Amazon. It actually does change the algorithm. It helps. And the last thing I want to add to you, Doug, is because you said it a couple times, when you write a book, the royalties and that. No, most of us don't become wealthy on books. I haven't interviewed John Grisham recently, but I will tell you this, they open up doors.
Yes.
They get you into that library to talk to a group of people. They allow you to go to the Rotary Club, or you're invited. And that's the beauty. There's some really nice author retreats that are around this country and around the world, actually. And that's the key to the executive washroom that you got now, and that's what a book does. And I wish people would focus on that a little bit more.
Well, I really agree with that. And being part of the community of writers has been just a wonderful experience for me. And I've had the opportunity to meet and talk with some genuine best-selling authors. And you know what? Every single one of them has turned out to be a really nice person
Yeah.
who wanted to help me and encourage me.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience with writers in general. They're just very helpful to each other.
They are. I've had that same experience. They tend to be pretty humble, and if you ask for it, they'll offer it. That means a lot of them, and I think people don't look at this. A lot of successful authors will consider writing forwards. And guess what a forward does from a very successful author? It takes that conventional publisher that you were just talking about 20 minutes ago, and now we got the Whiffam. Huh.
Sure,
Well, I don't know you, Doug, but I certainly know this person. Let me see that manuscript again. So it is a community, and people do like to collaborate. So that's one of the reasons why that's the key to the door that you've got now. And so welcome aboard and come on in. It's nice. So anyway, look, your first podcast. How did you like it?
Hey, I liked it a whole lot. Yeah. Let's do this some more.
Let's do it some more.
Well, they're all your friends.
There you go. Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I like everything about you but your hair, but I'm working on it. And but I think it's terrific. You are the walking, talking example of somebody who's found your own path in your own way to create some great books. And I've just had a wonderful time talking to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been great for me too.
Good. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's guest author, we'd love you to rate, review, and share this episode with others. If you'd like more information on today's guest or the Maryland Writers Association, please visit our website at marylandwriters.org. You can also hear a brief history of the Maryland Writers Association by listening to episode 0.